You ready, everybody? Board? Everybody good? Okay. I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, January 14th, 2014. It's 7 o'clock. We have our village board meeting, followed by our committee of the whole meeting. First item is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sherby, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Gutierrez.
Present.
Trustee Calhoun.
Present.
Trustee Perry.
Present.
Trustee Hudak.
Present.
Trustee Stecker.
Present.
Trustee Hilton.
Present.
President Booth.
Present. We do have a full complement this evening. Thank you. Our first item is a presentation. We have individuals, representatives from Commonwealth Edison, who wanted to inform us about the smart meter rollout plan. So I know we have Fabiola Mezquez here as well, and Mike McMahon. Correct. I don't want to butcher that. For our clerk.
Thank you, Mr. President, for having ComEd here this evening. My name is Mike McMahon. I'm the Vice President of Automatic Meter Infrastructure Implementation. We're rolling out the smart meters throughout the Commonwealth Edison service territory. You're kind of at the front end of the deployment. I don't want to take up too much of your time. We got about 70,000 meters installed in the last quarter of 2013 and kind of the surrounding areas. So we start from a core, an acorn, and we build out. We've got about 500 meters from our pilot area already in Westchester that have been operating for several years now. And over the course of the next 2 months, we'll finish the installation in Westchester, bringing in about 6,500 additional meters. You should have already received our pre-deployment letter in the mail. Did you see that?
Yes, sir.
People get letters in the mail? Okay, great. We're planning on being here January 20th for an installation where we'll do about 2/3 of the meters, and then we'll go away, and we'll come back the very next week. So we'll be here 2 contiguous weeks to finish the deployment. We'll be all done by the beginning of February. Your residents will get a blast call a week before we show up saying we'll be here the next week, so there should be no surprises that we'll be here. The day of, the meter installer will knock on the door of each resident, and if they're home, he'll engage them and talk to them about what's going to happen. If they're not at home and he has access to the meter's outside the house, he'll go ahead and make the exchange. Of course, if the meter's inside, the resident has to be home to allow him to have access. He'll have a ComEd badge on him. He will not ask for any personal information. He will not ask for any money. So there have been various scams taking place where people misrepresent themselves as ComEd employees. Our people will have a badge. They'll be dressed in their ComEd gear. They will be able to present that ID. They'll have it externally, but they'll present it if requested. And under no circumstances will they be asking personal information such as social security numbers or anything like that. Probably just confirming the resident's name and address if they're engaged. And under no circumstances will they be asking for any money or collecting any money. And that's very important because we know some senior citizens have been taken advantage of during our deployment. When he's done with the installation, I'll hang a door card on the door saying we've been here, we exchanged the meter. If the resident isn't home or we don't have access, he'll hang a different door card saying we tried, we missed, we'll give you a call, we'll be back, or call us for an appointment. The entire exchange should take about 10 minutes. The customer will lose power for a very short period of time as the meter is pulled out and the new meter is pushed in, but then the power will be restored. And that's it. It's very straightforward. Pretty simple process. Only takes a few minutes. But there is a very brief outage. In some cases, if we can jumper the fitting so that the customer doesn't have to lose power, we will do that. So not everybody loses power, but if you do, it'll be about 10 minutes. In some circumstances, we'll withdraw the meter and we'll note damage to the meter socket, in which case we have an electrician on call, and they have a minimum of 1 hour show-up time, a maximum of 1 hour show-up time. They'll make the repairs, we'll install the meter, and we'll be complete. So if there is any repairs to be done on the meter socket, we'll take care of that for the customer. No direct charge to the customer. Once again, no money to the customer. And that completes a short 5 minutes, unless there's any questions.
Just a couple.
Yes, sir.
I know Fabiola's been here. We've went to the website. I copied some information from your website. It's in our hallway. There is some stuff out on the table that Fabiola dropped off the other day. Really, this meter, once you pull the clip and open the cover, it's a 3-prong that pulls out and the new meter's plugged in.
That's right.
I've had one probably for the 2 years. I must have been part of the pilot at some point in time. I know at my father's house, though, there is the long box that a lot of the Martindale Estates homes, I think, and probably Celeste has it,
Okay.
where there are 4 screw attachments where the wires go on.
Yep. Yep.
Are you changing that configuration to put a plug-in box in? Because it's going to have to do some additional piping, because now the box is probably 2.5 feet long by that wide. Are you changing that to a small box with the push-in meter, or is that something that you've identified that obviously is going to need a little bit more work, that you're coming back at a later time to maybe hit those? And I'm not sure, excuse me, what number of those are in Westchester or not. I know my house has the pull-out one, my neighbor does, but I know in the Martindale Estate ones, those houses that were built in 1954 to probably 1958 certainly have that other style.
So that is a little different. This is the type of meter that will pull. Most people have these. This is the smart meter that will be installed. Would you like me to pass this around? You guys want to see it?
Certainly.
Sure. I'd love that little small thing compared to the giant.
However, what you're describing is most likely what we refer to as an A-base meter. It is in the older homes. There's a meter, and then the meter goes to a block, and then the block is what goes into the resident, into the home, and also has the wires from the service drop coming into it.
Correct.
We are not going to exchange those meters at this time. We'll be doing it shortly, so it's not going to be like a year away. It might be a couple months away. The reason is because we wanted to make sure that those older installations were safe were perfectly safe. And in order to do that, we want to take both the block and the adapter, if there's an adapter there, or what's called the A-base meter itself, remove it. And we wanted to replace that with UL certified equipment. And there was no UL certified equipment as recently as 4 months ago. We worked with a vendor to get an Underwriter Laboratory certified block and adapter. And so we'll come back with kind of a specialty team, and we'll replace the adapter and we'll replace the block. No direct charge to the customer, at our expense, be socialized through the rate base. And install the meter at the same time. I'm sure there are some occurrences where that older meter and the housing it's in just aren't suitable even to replace with our new UL certified equipment. In which case, yes, that will be replaced with a more modern meter fitting.
Because the drop goes in at the lower,
Yeah.
say, left side of it, depending on which way you're looking at it. And the 3 wires that come in, your grounding one pretty much goes to a block and then into the house. And then there's 4 connections that you're messing with a live connection where when you pull this thing, even that head out of it, it's dead unless you're sticking your fingers in the hole.
Right.
So
two of the prongs and the fitting would still be live because they're taking it from the service drop from our line. But our desire is to replace it with the UL certified equipment. And the reason is because obviously that represents lower cost to the ratepayers, and it's modern equipment and it's safe. However, I'm sure there's going to be some circumstances where maybe the wires into the house need to be replaced or other work needs to be done, in which case we'll do it. So we'll do all the work. the work we'll do on the meter fitting, some of you probably know the vernacular I'm going to use, but you have your meter fitting, and then it has wires that typically run up a weatherhead, and then they connect to the overhead service drop. And then from the meter fitting, there's wires that run into the house to the service panel. That's the panel in your basement with all the breakers in it. We'll replace everything up to the wire that runs to the service panel, the meter fitting, the wire that runs up the weatherhead, and the weatherhead. In some cases, we have done all that work. Now, most of the cases, we just have to tighten a jaw on the meter fitting or do some minor repairs, but there have been some cases where we'll do all that. What we won't do is work on the service panel. So we'll land our wires in the service panel, but we won't work on the service panel. And there's been a few cases where, frankly, when we've seen some situations, we've had to call in inspectors. And there's been some cases, very few, but some, where the situation was a fire hazard and the resident had to repair that service panel. That's their work, that's their property. So we won't do work on the service panel, but we'll land new wires in the service panel if that's what's required. That's kind of the boundaries of our scope.
Okay. And the other question is, since I have a smart meter, and probably I don't know if the whole block does or who in the area does, does ComEd have the software up and running that could tell me anything at this point in time? Or do we have to wait until everybody pretty much in town is hooked up before we can determine loads and how much I could save or spend, or,
Right. So
is that checkable right now, or is that something that software has not developed or in the process of being developed that I could look at something if I type in my account number?
Right. We have that functionality comes up right away. Now, we'll put the meter in. That meter won't be certified for a month. Most cases you can still get information off the web right away, but we want to come back and read the meter one more time manually. That's kind of a cross-check for us, and then the meter is what's called certified. Then we won't be back to read that meter, so we won't be in people's backyards, we won't be in their basements. You can go to the ComEd website, and you can go under Web Tools and My Energy Tools. You can sign up. As soon as you sign up, when you have a smart meter, as soon as you sign up, you can see your energy usage on a daily basis from the day before. You can sign up for high energy alerts, where if your energy usage this month is 30% higher than it was in the same month a year before, we'll send you a note to your preference to tell you your energy is higher than it should be. And there's other email functionalities as all that we'll send you to give you more usage information so you can use it and improve your energy usage, lower your bills.
I've received just a couple of calls, I think one several months ago and one recently that I passed on to Fabiola regarding the safety issues and things of that, and I've referred them to your website, and I think the third-party research page from different venues, even in California, and that have information on there that if people have concerns about radio frequency waves and stuff, that there are some studies again that are out there. This product is throughout the United States as far as I understand.
Yes, sir.
And the question that I think was in the gray area, which I didn't have an answer for, is there a potential opt-out feature? Is there charges if you opt out? Is that available to consumers in the event that they want to not have it?
Okay, great question. First is we do have a few people that have refused the meter. We've got 70,000 meters installed, as I said, in 2013, last quarter of 2013. We had 43 people that said, I don't want a meter. Those reasons,
out of 70,000?
Yeah. We about 0.2%. So the typical reasons fall into three categories. Data privacy. You're going to sell my data to third-party people, and I don't want you to do that. We will not do that. There's only three circumstances where we'll share data. If you give permission, and it has to be express in writing, not kind of, it has to be express And we're not going to call you for the permission. You're going to have to call us and say, I want to provide permission. Required by law, a legal agency comes and says, turn it over, and it's a legal requirement, we'll do that. Or if it's anonymous. So there is some features where in order to develop different dynamic rates, time of use rates, vendors need to have some aggregate data. And so we will provide the data on an anonymous basis where it's in a large group of information, so no personally identified information provided. The other is data security. People can hack into my system. They can see what I'm using. They can know whether I'm home or not. We employ the highest level of cryptographic techniques we can. Doesn't make it foolproof. Nobody will tell you that. We just saw that with Target. It's a risk area, that's for sure. However, even if somebody does hack into the system, all they will see is kilowatt hours and a meter serial number. There's no personal information that can be obtained off of that meter. And then the third, to your point, Mr. President, is radio frequency. Some people are convinced that what makes a smart meter smart, one of the features is it has a small radio in it, wireless radio. That's what transmits the information to us. It's about the size of a garage door opener or baby monitor, operates on the same frequency. And there's been, to your point, hundreds of studies done, and there's been no direct causal linkage between radio frequency and cancer. If people are really concerned about that, I always like to say the first thing you need to do is throw this away right away. Because your cell phone is 125 times more powerful than that meter is, and you don't have a wall between your cell phone and your head, and I don't know anybody that walks around with a meter next to their head for 30 minutes at a time. So those are the three reasons people generally choose not to take a meter. Right now, if somebody says, I don't want a meter, we'll put them on our deferred list. They don't need a real explanation. They just have to say, I don't want a meter, and we'll put you on the deferred list. Now, we're going to try to convince you. We're going to try to educate the customer on their concerns. We want to understand their concerns, and we want to have a dialogue with them to try to educate and lay out the facts. And over 30% of the folks, after a conversation, say, okay, I'm comfortable now. I'm willing to accept that meter. There is no charge at this time. There's no charge. It just goes on the deferral list. However, there is a tariff being gone through the ICC process. We expect to have that tariff resolved by the end of February. And should that be resolved and executed as written, there would be a $25 a month charge for people refusing to have a smart meter. Why? Why would that charge be in place? Because once the meters are in place, I don't have to send a meter reader out to read that meter anymore. So if an individual refuses the meter, let's say he's the only individual, 43 out of 70,000, right? So let's say it's the only individual in all of Westchester that refuses that meter, then I got to keep somebody on the payroll and send them out just for that house. And that's going to cost me about, actually it's a little more than $25 just to do that manual meter read. So because they haven't accepted the standard service and they want a non-standard service, they should pay for that non-standard service rather than socialize it across the rate base and have all you pay. But that's pending, and we expect that towards the end of February.
I've got a quick question. Since we pay for that service now to have somebody come out and read our meters,
Right.
does this mean our rates will go down?
Well, I'm not going to say your rates will absolutely go down, but our cost will go down, and that will be passed on to you.
Okay.
So I can say they will be lower than they would be otherwise, because there's a lot of things that work in rate space, of course. But yeah, and because under the Energy Infrastructure Modernization Act, we have an annual rate case. That reduction, and one of the biggest savings we have is actually the reduction in manual meter readers. As that cost goes down, that gets passed right back to you in the form of a lower cost on an annual basis. So it comes back to the ratepayer almost immediately.
Are these meters any more susceptible to being damaged from spikes in power versus the old meters, since there's more electronics to these now?
No, sir. Not that we've seen. No, sir.
Questions
No.
from anyone else?
Sure, yes,
I
sir.
was involved with the smart meter readings about 4 or 5 years ago on the fire department. And everything.
Sure.
Are we going to be able to utilize them where instead of calling ComEd out, we'll be able to call in the meter number and have them shut off?
Great question. So one of the benefits we've identified of the smart meters is right now, if the fire department, if the chief here calls and says, I need you to disconnect this service, I have to dispatch a lineman to come out and dispatch that service. In the future, now it's not going to be right away. We've got some software. The meter's going in and the manual and the reading of the meter electronically, that's the easiest thing we're doing. There's a lot of benefits like outage detection, outage notification, real-time rates, that a lot of software has to be put in place. But we have it on our roadmap, and I see that coming relatively soon. I'm going to say in about a year, where we would set up the protocols where now the chief or whoever is in the field authorized calls our outage control center, says, I'm at 123 Maple, I need this service disconnected, and we can do that from the desktop. So that will happen almost right away.
Because I know that was one of the concerns of the meeting was to have an assurance lockout tagout more or less on the meter, so when you do get to the point that, you know, one of your people on your end don't see it, say, well, why was this one taken out, and all of a sudden
Right.
drops back in while the guys are working.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you have a fire situation, for instance, hopefully, and you'll call, you have a hotline to call us right now, but hopefully in the future when we work this out, you'll have that service within 10 to 15 minutes instead of an hour for somebody to show up.
Jim, aren't you just going to cut the clip, lift the cover, and pull the thing out?
We don't touch it anymore.
I mean, that's the way to get rid of it. Call me, I'll do it for you. You mentioned the software piece again with that's being developed.
Yes, sir.
Is that the same software piece that's going to be able to tell you that there's an outage? Say my house is out for whatever reason, the wire fell down.
Yeah.
I mean, our thought of this was part of the smart meter grid work, whatever was,
Right.
you're going to see something that flashes my house like I'm out of service,
Yes, sir.
and then you don't have to, you know, a general area, or if it's just me and you see 1946 Downing and he's good and I'm out, well, guess what? Then it's just my issue that, you know, you'd be coming out to
Right.
to address. Is that developed now, or is that part of what you're talking about with Jim?
It's part of, well, there's two pieces to it. There's a couple different pieces to that particular software. So right now, today, when we put in a smart meter, we will get a last gasp signal. So when that meter loses power, it will send us a signal saying, I'm dead, I'm out of power. Or we can send a signal to the meter, and we can say, are you on or are you off? Now, what we haven't got, the software piece is that last gas signal has to be interrogated manually right now. So what we want to do is marry that up with what we call our outage management system, which is a different vendor and a different software program. So we want that last gas signal to go into the outage management system and notify us automatically that an outage will occur. And that's on our roadmap. Right now it's for like early part of 2015. We're looking to pull pieces of that up to the extent we can, but it's that automatic part that we have to work on. The manual part, and of course, you know, in a big storm with all these, we're not going to be able to decipher that. We'll do the pinging though, and particularly at the tail end of the storm. You know, half our truck rolls at the end of the storm are okay on arrival. So we'll send a truck out to a storm restoration right now at the end of the storm. This is when you're down the really painful part, the onesie twosies. The guys have been out of power for maybe 3-4 days. Half those trucks are going to a house that has power restored. So with the pinging of the meters, we'll be able to only dispatch those trucks to people who are really out of power. It's a manual process, but we'll do that as part of our storm restoration. And that should bring in that tail, those people, those lingering folks that have without power. We should be able to shorten that up a bit.
Okay, anything else from the board? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and thanks for
Thank
letting
you.
us into your community to do this
You're quite
valuable work.
welcome.
We're looking forward to it.
Thank you. Okay, on the heels of that, public comments and questions. To give as many visitors as possible an opportunity to speak in the interest of adjourning by 9, limit your comments to 3 minutes in length unless further time is granted by the board.
There were no forms back there. You're slipping up. You should have me memorized by now anyway. I'm Steve Battersby, 1905 Balmoral. Sam, first I'd like to compliment Mr. Stozer and the Public Works Department on the great job they did during the recent cold and snow. Anytime that I wanted to, I was able to get out of my driveway and travel on the street. They did a real good job considering all the problems they had probably had to overcome. If they keep operating at this level, you may have to buy them the new sewer truck that they want. As happy as I am with the Public Works, I'm very disappointed in the building department, however. I've been disappointed lately with the way that they've treated 2 new homeowners on my block. Instead of making these new residents feel welcome, our building department has treated them poorly, I believe. The first resident you met at the prior board meeting, he simply wanted to replace his old garage. He told me that before he could tear down his old garage, the village had him follow procedures that cost him $1,500. That was before he could do anything. One of those procedures was to obtain a garage demolition permit from the county. In addition to that, the county required him to test his garage shingles for asbestos. Now, I have previously inquired with the Illinois EPA about that, and they told me there was no state or federal regulation pertaining to residential shingles, and Cook County was the only jurisdiction in the entire country with a regulation for homeowners. I think that regulation is in place simply to provide job security for county patronage workers. In the past, we have ignored that requirement, and we should go back to ignoring it. I know when I put up my garage years ago, I didn't have to go through that procedure. After imposing that county tax on my neighbor, the building department then made him bring his old garage up to code. You got that? Before he could demolish his old garage, he had to spend time and money to bring it up to code. Then he could tear it down. That's like waxing your car just before you take it to the junkyard and run it through the crushing machine. If that wasn't enough, somebody from the village then slapped a failure to comply notice on his door. The other new resident simply wanted a fence in his backyard to contain his dog. When he tried to install a fence at the same line as the others on the block, he was told he couldn't do that, and if he did, he could be fined $750 a day. I don't see how you can threaten to fine a new resident for building the same as the existing residents have done for the last 35 years. The decision by the building commissioner was contrary to 35 years of precedent established by prior commissioners. This gets back to the vacated alley in the 1900 block at Balmoral. At last night's park board meeting, several board members told me they have no interest in the east 8-foot section of that alley. They considered it as part of the homeowner's property. I went to the Cook County Recorder's of Deeds office last week to discuss this with them. Surprisingly, they told me they have seen the situation before. They said it could be rectified by the village. The village could rededicate the alley and then revacate it. Essentially, the village would be reconverting it back to a public alley temporarily and then revacating it wholly to the homeowners. We currently have about 200 homes in Westchester listed as foreclosures. Compare that to Oak Park that has about 300 for a population 4 times as great. We should be very appreciative when somebody invests in our community by purchasing a home and then improves it. Unfortunately, my new neighbors don't feel very appreciated by the village. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, the only commentary regarding the county rules and regulations, I don't think we're going to wink and a nod and do something that the county has passed ordinances on us. If that's the case, then we have MWRD flood ordinances that are passed and other laws that the county's passed to us. We may not like them, but I don't think we have the ability to say we're not doing it. Whatever we did in the past, if that's what we did, shame on us. I'm not in favor of not enforcing laws that we have on the books. If we have to get rid of something to change it, I'm all for the change. But, you know, the bigger fish eats the little fish, and the county has passed their rules, and, I mean, we're going to abide by them. It's as simple as that. I would ask, Mike, I know you were here at the last meeting when we talked about vacations and the park and whose property it is, or whatever the case may be. Is there any other words of wisdom regarding that vacation piece that was presented?
Well, I can give you a shorter solution. If the if the park board members, a majority of them desire to declare that property surplus and convey it to those adjacent property owners, the village isn't even in the process. They get a quitclaim deed, and we'd be out of the mix. So until a majority of that park board determines that they're not interested in what the law at the time of that vacation required, which was 50% to their adjoining property owner, I don't know that the village can ignore that. I would challenge the person at the county whose explanation was just have a rededication and a reconveyance. That's fine. That's got to come from the other half's got to come from the party who received the property. That's the park board. So it requires some cooperation from the park board.
Great, thank you. Any other questions, comments? As we move on. Okay. All right, I'd like to open up our public hearing. Mike?
Yes, thank you. The village is considering the receipt of a loan from the Water Pollution Control Loan Program that the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency provides. And one of their requirements is to have a public hearing to allow anyone to review the plan subsequent to the public hearing and to make comments to the individual, if I can flip and get his name, at the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. That would be a Mr. Gary Bingenheimer, Bingenheimer. The comment period is at least within 10 days after this hearing. You need to provide written comments to that individual at the IEPA. We expect that this plan is in compliance with IEPA requirements. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given us the go-ahead on December 2nd, 2013, authorizing us to hold this public hearing. So this is somewhat of a different type of public hearing requirement. Usually people are invited to step forward and make any comments, but I would point out that the only effective comments that the IEPA would recognize would be those that are submitted in writing to that gentleman whose name I provided, Bingenheimer, at the IEPA. So we are required to make that notice. And did you have something, Janet?
No, I did just want to mention that Mark Zesch, our village engineer, is present in the audience if anybody needs information about the project.
Yes, and I'll start with this. As you all are well aware, when we had National Power rotting out here, they could not access any of the sanitary sewers to clean from Wakefield through the Forest Preserve into the village of LaGrange Park, through the Forest Preserve, that came out on Brainerd and Garfield Avenue, where it hits into the MWRD interceptor. That was not cleaned. It's approximately a 30-inch pipe in most of the sections there, and it's been in there since that was a planned subdivision for the village of Westchester back in the day prior to it being transferred to the Forest Preserve District of Cook County. As a result of that, we've had several meetings with the Forest Preserve District to try to gain access into the Forest Preserve, to get the truck over the manholes that are there, and there's probably about 15 or so on one side and another 8 or so on the LaGrange Park side, that unless we're planning on cutting a 20-foot swath of their trees down, of which, of course, they have some umbrage to, that it was not going to happen. So we developed a plan to reroute that sanitary line as it comes off of Stratford and that Somerset curve to now go westbound to Sunnyside and go straight down Sunnyside toward 31st, cross over 31st, run down the bike path that goes into LaGrange Park, and then cut over by the, there's a bridge at Garfield there, if you've ever been in LaGrange Park there, as you come east to connect up to the sanitary sewer line of MWRD there. This is the least obtrusive way, minimal tree damage. If you looked at this, the IEPA is cautioning us about different plant life and animal life that would be potentially impacted along that route. We have the blessing of the Forest Preserve District in this regard. We have the blessing of the Village of LaGrange Park. We are going to allow, there's 2 houses at Edgewood and LaGrange Park right at the bike path who are on septic systems, who we are going to allow to tap into that sanitary to certainly be neighborly, that they can get away with, or get out of having a septic tank in their backyard in a mechanized urban area, which, you know, certainly I think we can concur would be changed. So we've been working on this for several years, getting the blessing of the IEPA and low interest loan to do this is certainly in our best interest, in as much that that pipe has never been cleaned. And when we started talking about this back in the day, an MWRD representative indicated just by age alone, there's probably 8 inches of silt in that 30-inch pipe already. I'm sorry? Can't get it to televise it.
Oh, can't get it.
Can't even get in there to do it. So, you know, it was put in long, long time ago. This is probably the most cost-effective way to do this, and I think that this will certainly enhance the sanitary flow, which on the south side of town comes in probably somewhere around Fleet Street, Windsor Drive, and certainly from part of the High Ridge area that crosses Boger Avenue and down there as well. So there's pretty much half of our town is running out of that pipe. So I think this is a bona fide project. We've been trying to get it done for a number of years, and we finally come to a crossroads where we can get it done. So I think there's would be very little, if any, opposition. I think we've gone through all the hoops and hurdles and try to be as environmentally friendly in this, other than we did have a right to our easement that was granted way back when. And I think the biggest piece of this is we could have cut down all the trees and then got in there to look at the pipe and found that the pipe needed to be all replaced. And I think it would have cost us more money, as you would have had to put some type of gravel road through the forest preserve, which of course we would probably be in court for quite some time, and this would never get done. So I'm pleased that we are at this crossroad to assist all those residents from pretty much half the town. So that's a 90-cent tour. Mark, did I miss anything? Mark Zesch, our village engineer.
Mark, before you start, I have a question. Did we post this or make this project identification summary available? It must be available from this evening onwards for that 10-day period. But was it made available prior to tonight?
It was not made available at our office. I believe it was available here at Village Hall for review and comments.
And the notice, the public notice indicated that also?
Yes.
That
Yes.
it was on site here?
Correct.
That's fine, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President and trustees. Just to follow up with you, not only is the Cook County Forest Preserve District, Corps of Engineers, IDNR, IEPA, MWRD, Illinois Nature Preserve Commission, and LaGrange Park, they're all on board with this. It's a tremendous project. It's going to remove essentially several sanitary manholes that are located adjacent to Salt Creek, which are prevalent to inundation and inflow as Salt Creek waters rise. That flows into the sewer, which then backs up the sewer into the residential area. This sewer serves approximately 2/3 of the village, so that's a huge component that we can alleviate, hopefully, a lot of infiltration and inflow that backs up into the residential area and into homes. The project cost is listed in here and is available. Right now, total project cost is about $2.4 million, which would be repaid over 20 years.
Any board members have a question of Mark or any commentary regarding this project? I think this is a plus for the village of Westchester, folks.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any public that's here that would like to comment? Or Mr. Ossendorf, please step up to the podium.
My name's Bill Ossendorf. I live at 2901 Mayfair Avenue. I talked to Mark briefly and Dave earlier in the hallway here, and it sounds like a great project to get that sewer taken care of, and I think that there's an opportunity for us to look into possibly using that existing sanitary sewer once it's abandoned. Use it as an overflow for the Carlisle sewer. It's a 18-inch pipe going into a 28 and a 30 and so on down the line. And I asked Mark, if it's something that we can do, and might take some help on your part, with the Forest Preserve District. But if we get an 18-inch pipe, convert an 18-inch sanitary sewer into a storm sewer, we could take some of the head off the overburdened 54-inch pipe going into the creek. So it's something to look at. So, and while I'm here, I just wanted to say, I really appreciate the heroic efforts that Public Works did during the storm over here. If I was a snowplower driver, I would have been knocking garbage cans down. They were parked in the street and everything, and they forced them to go around 3 times instead of once. But they did a great job, and just hope that with the freeze thaw, we don't wind up with a bunch of water leaks. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just in conclusion, I'd like to state once again that from starting tomorrow, 10 days, there is a 10-day window for individuals to provide written comments to either the village or to the IEPA addressed to Gary Bingenheimer. That address for the IEPA is in the public notice. Obviously, since you can notify the village, and I would suggest the village manager, that may be the easiest thing to do, is to send your comments to the village, and the village is obligated to pass those on to the IEPA. So starting the 15th through the 25th of January, the village will accept written public comments. And if that's all that you have, you should call the public hearing closed at
It's like
7:45.
7:45. There's no more comments out there. Certainly, this
Thank
is
you.
time for public comments. If not,
should reflect the time that closed.
public meeting is closed, 7:45. Whoop. On this particular issue, sir?
Different.
No, okay, yeah, this is like a special piece, but we'll get to you. Okay, I promise. I know, I don't know if you were trying to get my attention that you wanted to speak in the public piece, but we'll get to you. Everybody gets heard here, that's for sure. Okay. Item number 7, our consent agenda. There's record of bills, monthly reports, minutes, etc. I'm told by Sherby that there's a request to pull something as a problem with the audio. Of which meeting there? November 26th. Both board and committee? Okay, and I understand that you've made arrangements with the village to get an additional copy of that, and we should have those at our next meeting, is that correct? Thank you.
As well as the executive minutes that have been requested by attorney.
Right, because we're gonna go through all of those pretty much to either release or continue to hold those in abeyance.
And we do have to approve those, since we haven't voted on the executive session minutes for several meetings, so.
Okay, anybody need anything pulled? Again, anything need to be pulled? If not, is there a motion to second to approve the record of bills, the
Motion.
department reports, with the exceptions of the 26 minutes of November? We're approving the December 10th ones, and the ordinance amending subsection C and D of the billing rates and payment, and the ordinance waiving the bid for the installation of the LED lighting fixtures at GMP Energy that I know that, I think information was forwarded today about the added lights to that piece that weren't counted originally. There's a motion by, I'm
Motion.
sorry,
Second.
who had the,
Celeste.
Celeste and Nick. Any questions? If not, Sherby, roll call, please.
Trustee Calcagno.
Aye.
Trustee D'Souza.
Aye.
Trustee Perry.
Aye.
Trustee Rita. Aye. Trustee Stecker.
Aye.
Trustee York.
Aye.
President Fleur.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 8 on the active agenda, ordinance waiving the competitive bidding and authorizing the execution of an agreement between the village and United Communication Systems Incorporated, also known as Call 1. I don't believe this hit the last committee of the whole, so is there a motion and a second to waive that?
So moved. Second.
Okay.
Roll call on that.
Tom and Nick. Please call the roll, Sherbs.
Trustee Perry.
Aye.
Trustee Rita. Aye. Trustee Stecker.
Aye.
Trustee York.
Aye.
Trustee Calcagno.
Aye.
Trustee D'Souza.
Aye.
President Fleur.
Aye, motion carries.
That was to waive the committee of the whole
Whole.
requirement. Now you need the main motion.
Right, so, now, for the vote regarding this issue, is there a motion and a second to approve the ordinance waiving the competitive bidding and
So-
authorizing execution of the Call 1?
So moved.
Tom, second.
Second.
Celeste. Janet, information.
Yes, this was, we're arriving at the end of a 3-year agreement that was put in place in 2010 by former Finance Director Jim Edgeberg. This is similar to the state purchasing group that we have acquired equipment through, where this is through the Suburban Purchasing Cooperative that is comprised of members of the Northwest Municipal Conference. They have extended their rates to other municipalities. Currently, Call 1 provides service for over 110 suburbs in the Chicago region. Basically, what they have done, the Suburban Purchasing Cooperative has bid out for the favorable phone rates, and they were the recent accepted bidder for the Northwest Municipal Conference as of 12/31/13 over AT&T and Windstream. So basically, as with the state purchasing consortium, they have done the vetting and bidding through these vendors and allow municipalities by statute to enjoy those discounts through their bid process.
Any questions? Okay, I have one comment, and I've addressed this with the village manager. And what I've asked for is that the village complete a complete review of all the contracts that we have, and that each one of these contracts, the start and expiration date, be put in some type of spreadsheet. And as these things come up, that the board be informed of them in enough time in the event that we want to go out and seek competitive bids. This one, to me, is a no-brainer. This is just like dealing with CMS, Central Management Services, where they're doing all the bidding and getting the lowest price for you. So for us to go out to bid on this is probably, we're never going to get a better price. I'm fairly confident of that. But I would like to see this spreadsheet developed by staff in the finance department. Maureen, hopefully it's not something that's out of your bailiwick, that we're not in a position that we have to not hear about it until it's time to go. I think we've done enough of these over time that who's ever in charge of these contracts, and I know there's probably enough of them, but these should all be out there in the open of what's out there, what we need to look at, and when we should be doing them. So if that's not going to be too much of encumbrance, I would enjoin the board to concur with my request.
And I would add that that spreadsheet has already been started by staff, and all department heads have been directed to report any service contracts that are in place in their departments. As they're finishing up their budgets and reviewing their
Beautiful.
contractual services, they will be noting those and forwarding those to finance for inclusion in the spreadsheet.
Great, thank you very much. All right, is there any more comments? If not, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Sherby, please call the roll.
Trustee Rita.
Aye.
Trustee Stecker.
Aye.
Trustee Yorkevich.
Aye.
Trustee Calhoun.
Aye.
Trustee Gattuso.
Aye.
Trustee Perry.
Aye.
President Puglia.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 9, the manager's report. Janet.
A few things to mention this evening. First, I'd like to offer on behalf of the village condolences to Maureen Potempa, who lost her father last week. I know that, please accept all of our sincere sympathies on your loss. Village Hall will be closed Monday, January 20th in observation of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. We will be posting that on the doors for all residents. Police lobby will remain open 24/7, as well as fire department for any emergency services. Public Works will be closed. Reminder that the voting age is now allows 17-year-olds to come to Village Hall and register. So if you know any young people who will be turning 18 prior to the general election, they can now come in and register at age 17 to vote in the primary. And we do have numerous deputy registrars at Village Hall, so feel free to come on in and get registered to vote. We will be hosting Bassett classes tomorrow on Wednesday the 15th. We have 2 sessions, one from 9:30 to 11:30 in the morning and one from 2 to 4 p.m. This allows certification of anyone who serves alcohol, either in public locations or even at fundraisers, things like that. We require Bassett certification. So if you know of anybody who would like to stop in and get certified, please send them our way. One other reminder that Saturday, January 25th, the Chamber will be hosting the Celebrate Westchester event at the Alpine House, and that's cocktail hour starts at 6, dinner at 7. So we hope that people come out and celebrate Westchester and join the Chamber in that event. That's all I have for this evening.
Great.
Janet, that Bassett training, that's free for anybody, right?
Yes, there's no cost.
And just to dovetail on that, we've contacted everyone that had a liquor license. We've contacted the majority of the nonprofits, Divine Providence, Divine Infant, and those that generally have these events throughout the year, and any venue that's out there. So tomorrow we have 2 sessions. I think Nick is going to sip and get intoxicated for everybody so they can see what not to be.
Yeah, they know.
Is that it, Nick?
Even for the Irishman.
It's better than getting tased.
Well, we do that afterwards. There's a tasing piece on that, but thank you. Village Attorney, Michael.
I was going to report some developments that the village needs to undertake with the concealed carry provision. I've been doing that in my other municipal board meetings that I've had in January, but I see Chief Carpino's got that on the committee of the whole agenda, so I'll hold my comments to that point in time concerning signage and notifications to liquor license holders of certain requirements. So the other item was I was going to request, but it's already on the agenda for a closed session regarding collective bargaining. We need some input from the village board. So that's all I had.
Great. Board members. Frankie, anything EDC-wise?
We had an EDC meeting yesterday morning in the community room. We talked about the upcoming summit meeting and some of the beautification projects that we have coming up.
Great. Nick, anything from police and fire?
There was a Police and Fire Commission meeting last week, and from there should be the final list of candidates for the firefighter position is completed now, and hopefully they started calling the candidates to have them go through the fingerprinting, the background polygraph, etc. We're hoping that we got some already heavily qualified candidates at the top. The academy started on Monday, yesterday, so we're kind of hoping that somebody is already has the certifications, so it doesn't have to, nothing is put off. But that's moving forward. The captain's test, I believe, is being rescheduled, and the lieutenant's test is going to be coming up. Sergeant's exam is being set up as well. ETSB, we have some conflicts with some dates for the meetings, but we're going to get those out. But we are short a member, but hopefully to be gaining a new member. So that's pretty much all I got.
Okay, and I'll just dovetail on what Nick mentioned. Mr. DePetro has resigned from the ETSB, and with us this evening is Jay Delicandro, a resident that is in the process of getting his resume, which will probably have to be delivered by courier on a trailer. Is a former village manager of the Village of Elmwood Park, who now resides in beautiful Westchester, which he told me today he would never leave, even if he won the lottery. I am going to be proffering his information to you so we can put it on the next agenda for approval, so we can get that in the game. So, Jay? My pleasure. Great. Thank you, sir. Celeste, anything?
I do not have anything.
Nothing. Tommy? Yeah.
Nothing really. We're still trying to figure out a day for this get out of play, if we're going to be able to do it this year or not.
Great. Angelo,
Um,
sustainability, environmental,
sustainability.
the old Green Committee.
The ESC. Let's shorten it. We did talk about hosting an informational seminar regarding things you can do to reduce the risk of flooding on your properties, things that can be done with the help of, with the assistance of some different agencies that are out there, and possibly some of the village officials, at a neutral site somewhere. Things like, rain barrels and the advantages and disadvantages of them. So, it wouldn't be just totally, hey, you can do this, and, there are pros and cons about, different things. So, if Mr. Celestino has not already contacted the village, but he may have.
He sent an email today.
Okay. We're proposing 2 dates, I think, in April, I believe it was, to give us enough time to promote it and get some advertisement out there, get some people to show up, and, probably get something out in the newsletters, on the village website, and hopefully have some residents too come with ideas and, sit down and have a panel of people up there that can, provide some information, and, we're not saying that we can prevent flooding, but at least reduce the risk of it. So that's one of the big things they want to work on this year, especially right when the rainy season's going to start, So there was a lot of ideas thrown out there, and, other than that, we're going to be speaking later in the cow about some reappointments.
Okay, we're going to pass an ordinance that the rain can only be an inch
It's
at a time, every 4 hours or something, so we can manage that
Well,
flow.
things like downspouts running in, stuff, all that kind of, there's a lot of different issues out there.
There's certainly enough information
Yes.
to talk about. Paulie, anything?
Nothing yet, nothing coming. Up and coming for car shows, concerts, we're starting that now, since the holidays are over. And, that's about all right now, Sam.
Great, thank you, Paulie. Chief Carpino.
Unfortunately, I do not have a handout for the monthly report. The lieutenant was off, just got back, he's catching up with work. We are going to provide at the next meeting an annual report that I don't believe we've ever received. It'll be comparing 2013, 2012, as far as calls for service, alarm calls, motor vehicle crashes, citations issued, things of that nature, all the training of all the personnel in 2013. Hopefully, you'll see the comparison from 2013 to 2014 next year. The numbers are going to increase on all levels. Hopefully the calls for service will be down, the arrests will be up, and tickets will be up. By next meeting, you will have an annual report, besides the delinquent monthly report. That, unfortunately, I didn't prepare in time to have it here. The lieutenant was off, and I should have pre-planned. So I will get it out as soon as possible. Another note on the 29th, on a Friday, 27th of December, on a Friday evening, we had a roadside safety check up on the north side of Manheim Road here, up by the BP Amoco. As a result, 6 citations were issued for seatbelt violations, a child safety seat, there was 2 violations, suspended drivers, there were 4, 1 DUI arrest, 6 uninsured motor vehicles, 2 equipment violations, and as a result, 3 motor vehicles were towed and seized and impounded, and the administrative tow fee was applied. Safe Speed has been in operation now for over a month. Since the inception of Safe Speed at the previous locations where you had another vendor, a total of 1,698 citations have been issued. And of those, there's 1,483 still outstanding. A total of 215 have been paid so far. So we'll have an upcoming hearing. If you haven't noticed, there's a kiosk in the lobby where you could review your citation. There's a barcode on the citation that the people receive. They just scan it through the scanner in the lobby, and they're able to pick up a handset and actually talk to a live person from Safe Speed, so they don't have to have any interaction with our desk personnel. They just refer to the kiosk, which was given to us at no cost by Safe Speed. We were able to negotiate that. Originally, it went at $8,000. If they want to pay the citation, there's handheld devices at the Village Hall where the people can pay their fees, their fines directly at the Village Hall. As Trustee Stecker said, there is a sergeant's exam tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. It'll be in the community room. There's 8 applicants who will be taking that exam. And within hopefully about 2 weeks, our license plate recognition that you've already approved will be installed in the car. We hope to take the car and make it what I refer to as a slick top. We'll take the light bar off the car. We'll put some more lighting inside the car for safety reasons. And we may even take the decals off the car. It'll be a totally white, unmarked car. It'll have all the emergency equipment and the prisoner cage and the prisoner back seat. But it'll have the license plate recognition. It'll be assigned on every shift. And they'll have the traffic radar device, license plate recognition with 4 cameras that will be capturing data throughout the shift and alerting the officers of people that are driving through the village with a suspended license may be wanted, whatever. We could input data to that unit as well for people we want to be on the lookout for. So that's going to be a very useful tool in our patrol fleet in the very near future. With that, that's all I have to offer right now.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Chief Adams.
Just want to remind all the residents that due to the cold weather throughout the season, the warming center is available. Check in at the PD, and it's meant for short-term housing. We'll provide water. You're responsible for your own food, but you have a nice warm place to stay in the interim while you can get your situation set up. No animals, unless they're service animals, are allowed in the warming center as well. And that's open 24 hours a day. we've been busy assisting a lot of our neighbors recently because of the ice and cold as well. Maywood, Forest Park, Schiller Park, River Grove. I want to remind our residents to use only approved heating devices, limit your use of space heaters, don't use your ovens or stoves to heat your residences. Just be careful, and please check on your elderly residents around you. Make sure they're doing okay. If they need any assistance, you can always call the fire department. We can come out and see what we can do to assist those residents who can't necessarily help themselves. And then lastly, our heavy rescue squad was delivered at the end of December. We had it for approximately 2 weeks. It's now in St. John getting some final equipment installation done on it. It should be back here within the next 2 to 3 weeks, so we can get it in service as soon as possible. Again, it's going to be a real versatile vehicle to the village with all kinds of specialty equipment on there, the extrication equipment, SCBA cascade system, which allows us to fill bottles on the scene, our air bottles, to keep us in service longer. And I'm kind of excited about the CAF system, a compressed air foam system, which is a unique tool in the fire service that is going to come in handy. So when we get it ready to go and back here and all lettered up and ready to go, hopefully we'll have some good weather. We'll bring it to one of the meetings, and you guys can get your hands on it and climb on it and get a ride.
Thank you, Jim. Maureen, again, condolences to you and your family and that at the passing of your father.
Thank you very much, Sam. I appreciate it.
I know he was a Morton College director or on their board of directors.
He was the chairman of the board.
Oh, okay. So, again, another public servant. So,
thank you for your condolences. I appreciate it. I have received first drafts of budget from all the department heads. Meetings will be arranged next week. I will be meeting with department heads along with the village manager and myself to review those budgets. I'm also working with my staff on a system cleanup in preparation of the vehicle sticker renewals that will be going out no later than March 1st. And I have met with a representative from Civic Systems along with Janet. We are planning on meeting again towards the end of March to begin the system conversion. They're going to be grabbing our data and converting it into the new system.
thank you. Anyone have any questions?
We hope to go live with that system effective with the start of the new fiscal year on May 1st. So that would be our plan at this point.
Gregory.
Yes, since our last meeting, it was on December 17th, we went live with the computer-aided dispatch and records management system for the police department. After about 10 days of training that all the officers, or almost all of the officers had gone through, they were all ready to dive in and start using it. After a few hiccups here and there, just a little bit of a learning curve, nothing out of the ordinary, but it was all expected. Everything's been running smooth. Been dealing with our former CAD and records management vendor. Have received our data as of today, and we'll be forwarding that data on so that our system will have all the information and records that we've been inputting from the old system into the new. So the officers will still have the same tools, very similar to what they've had over the past several years. In addition to that, as a side note, the Illinois Department of Transportation, which has provided software for accident reporting that the officers have been using in the car for many years. In fact, it's been used throughout the state, has been in a state of about to be decommissioned, if you will. The Illinois Department of Transportation has, over the last couple of years, that they did not want to support the software. So after discussing with a vendor that provides free software and also integrates with the state for reporting purposes, we've been discussing with LexisNexis, a company that we deal with on other fronts, to provide us the software. And again, it's free to the user of us, and it'll also allow the victims of accidents to receive their accident reports online, as opposed to having to come in and/or FOIA or request those forms and documents in person. So looking forward to getting that going. We've looked at getting some training on that. The officers, again, have all seen it now and have thought this is going to be much easier than the accident reporting they've been doing. So we're still moving forward with that. In addition to that, we're in the very beginning stages of discussing electronic ticketing with Cook County. Currently, Cook County provides us with paper tickets, which I'm assuming none of you have seen if you're not a police officer. You don't get tickets, right? But the officers would be allowed to write their tickets using the computer, would be able to scan the barcode on the back of your driver's license, and the way it's been described so far is that tickets could be written, printed in the cars, and would take less than a few minutes as opposed to between 7 and 10 minutes that an officer currently takes to hand write those tickets. So looking forward to that, and I'll report back as we hear more from the county on that.
I've got it down to a science, so if you could send it to LaGrange Park, it'll take me 30 seconds to get out of the car and back instead of the 2 minutes. So, good. Thank you, Greg. Melissa, we're going to call on you, hiding behind the counter.
Changing it up tonight.
There we go.
I just have a couple things for tonight. I think I mentioned it at our last meeting, but Anna's Place across the street at 10261 Roosevelt Road, it's Mike Manzo's property. They opened last month. 1212 Gardner, which is Superior One Electric, they were the ones that had received the Class 60 tax incentive. They received their interior remodel permit, so they're going to start work soon. The crown signage for Tower 3 for Follett has been approved. The permit has been issued, so they'll probably be installing that sign soon. Their construction is continuing to progress, so I think everything is on schedule. Mariano's applied for their public hearing today. I sent a copy of their plan commission submittal to the board, so I'm sure you've already seen it. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me. And then in December, my department issued 71 permits, 196 inspections, and it accounted for about $1.4 million in construction value. That's it.
Yes, thank you. What I would like to request, and this is probably a EDC and economic, development piece as well. I know, I think I'm following up with what Trustee Stecker presented some months ago, that the Village of Franklin Park had a listing out there of the vacant commercial properties. And I know the Village of Franklin Park has a lot of businesses or factory-type locations that we don't have, but I'd like to see some type of registry someplace on our website or available out there that says 10261 Roosevelt Road, vacant. I'm not trying to be a real estate guy, but I'd like to get that out there, that these things are open and that we're looking to bring businesses in. I think we need to focus a little bit more time on the actual going out after somebody and then trying to make the connection. And I know you've been doing that with Mike's property across the way for a car wash or whatever we've tried, and a few things fell through the through the cracks, so to speak, that people pulled out of. But I'd like to see what locations are open, and that it's out there for someone to see, and maybe we could get a marriage going, so to speak, that would be both beneficial to who's renting and or who's buying, and certainly us having a new business in town. So that we can try to do that. Okay? Not too much trouble? By tomorrow?
There actually is a list on the website.
Of everything?
Yep, it's it's based on a GIS system, and it's offered through the state of Illinois in connection with some of the, I think ComEd was part of the group that helped start the site. And basically, as a municipality in the service area, you can enter all your sites that are available for either lease or for sale. And, so I've been.
You know, if we can, you know,
And there's a link off of our website.
It's not horrible.
You got,
If you go to the
you
building
gotta look at it
departments.
though. You gotta
and
look for
then,
it.
yeah, I want to, and
More
since we
visible.
already have it, that's a great thing, but it's got to be a more accessible. I don't know if it's something that pops up, or click here if you're interested in renting businesses in town or business opportunities or something like that. So it might tweak somebody when they get on the site that they could find it more readily.
We
Okay,
can definitely change the location.
sounds good.
Plus, we can probably put an icon on the homepage that'll draw them directly there.
Yeah.
There you go, got it covered. Public Works, Dave, you've been complimented on the snow removal and things of that nature this evening. So kudos to the guys that are working with that.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you too, Mr. Battersby, for the kind words regarding our snow removal effort. I'll be certain to pass your compliments on to the guys who do the hard work. Since the last board meeting, we've had 2 water main breaks in December. Unfortunately, one of them on New Year's Eve, which is the same night we had the beginning of our storm that lasted 3 days. We had guys that literally came out of the water main trench and jumped in a plow back to back. We also had about a day and a half break, and then we had another snowstorm, so we had back-to-back storms, which took up a lot of our time, and due to the dedication of our guys, we got the job done. We also recently resurrected the calcium chloride solution tanks in the back, and the pumps and the hoses that were out of service for a little while to now pre-wet our salt. We're trying to get a little more mileage out of our salt now, and also allow us to salt in lower temperatures, which has been having very good results. We've used a little over half of our salt quota for this year, which I hope that the calcium solution will help us kind of stretch out that remaining half that we have. Otherwise, I have backup plan in place if we start to run low. We do have a new dump truck that we ordered way back in September arriving this Friday, as I'm told, where that will get married up with the new salt spreader that arrived and has been sitting in the back for about 2 weeks now. So we'll be able to split the village up into 4 salting zones now rather than 3 that we've had previously, to get salt on the road quicker and improve driving conditions quicker. We've been painting in the police station in non-emergency times. Today we undecorated the holiday tree in front of fire station number 1. We're probably going to be taking that down tomorrow. I think that's, also I wanted to make mention of the street improvement program, which I had attempted to bid out in December. Had a number of setbacks, I guess they might say, preventing me from doing that. However, I've been working day and night and weekends now to try to get that put together by the end of this week, to have bid packages out on the streets next week by Tuesday. I know we're off on Monday, but we'll have bid packets out on the streets Tuesday next week. My goal is to have a bid opening on February 4th, which will enable us to hopefully take to the village board on February 11th approval of both of our contracts, which will include the concrete program as well as the street rehabilitation program.
Okay. Just a question, the water main break by Christopher's, from my recollection, because I was out there, there was no impact on Christopher's. He was able to open up. I believe that's correct, because I know he has things there on New Year's Eve. So I was out there about 8 o'clock. I know they probably buttoned it up about 8:30. Did you hear of any impact? I didn't hear of any. I was just wondering if you did.
I had heard nothing about that, no.
Him
It was the
opening.
one across the street? Like it was across the street from him?
No, it was right on his side. It was right in front of the
It
printing.
was right in front of the old tobacco depot.
Yeah, it was right there. Yeah. I didn't hear of anything, so.
I had heard nothing about it either. No, that the guys got the water back on rather quickly and jumped in their plows right afterwards.
Okay, so we have about a few days left of getting the street program all ready to go, and we should be able to bid this out. Let me ask this, and Mark, you're here as well. Maybe you have some input. Whom do we send these out to? Is it just a general send out, or is it we target certain vendors for this? How do we get the word out? Obviously, you want to try to get as many bids as you can
Yes.
on a project like this, so there's some competition, so to speak, so we can really pick the best one out of the game. And Paulie, maybe you got some input on that, or do we have a host of these people that do this work, or?
We
what
do,
we
yes.
do?
I know we had, I think, approximately 11 paving contractors that bid on the street rehab project last year. We certainly will solicit to them again. I'm aware of a number of them myself. Concrete contractors, we try to target all the local area ones, as well as ones that we've worked with in the past. We'll put a notice on our website and also notify the IDOT bulletin, put something in that as well.
Does it hit the paper? Do we do an
And
ad?
we do something
Post
in the Suburban Life as well.
We have
Do we ever use any services? I know like Blue Book used to have something too that they work with municipalities, everybody to, you know, to get those bids out to more contractors, you know, more people.
Some of them gotta be IDOT approved, though. That's one of the things. They gotta be IDOT approved, a lot of them.
The
So it's
contractor
got the
themselves.
Contractors themselves.
I get it.
So that kinda narrows down the field a little bit more. So, I mean, you have 11 of them, Dave?
Yes, there's 11 that bid last year, and we certainly send out our notice to bid to them.
How many
Same.
returns out of the 11 did you get?
We get all of them.
Every one of them came back?
There's also a website that I'm aware of called Bid Tool, where they solicit contractors in the Chicagoland area, and they solicit our project as well.
Mark, any other suggestions that you may have? You're in the thick of all that.
Sure, there's a publication out there, Mr. President, called Dodge Construction as well. That's another tool that a majority of the contractors in this area subscribe to. They go through, they post it, they look at the due dates for that. Just another opportunity.
I appreciate that. And while you're standing, since you're the village engineer, is there any commentary for the board that you'd like to indicate today about all the projects that are in the hopper?
In conjunction with the low-interest loan the village is seeking through the IEPA, we're also seeking a low-interest loan through the potable water portion to paint the elevated tank on Enterprise Circle. Right now, we're in approximately the same time frame or timeline as with the sanitary sewer project, in that though there was no public hearing required for that project. So hopefully IEPA has received, to my knowledge, has not received any negative comments on that, and should be moving forward then with the loan documentation to approve the project plan and to notify the village that there is funds available for the low interest loan and that you are a lucky recipient of those.
Great.
Okay, and just for the board's edification, what we do with these low-interest loans is we pay the contractors as the work is done, and then are reimbursed from IEPA when the project is done. Then they issue us our debt service schedule on the project, and I believe they're both 10-year loans? 20-year loans. So, you know, we'll be able to spread that out over 20 years, so. I believe the water tower, they estimated an annual payment of $49,000. I'm not sure on the Sunnyside project.
Great. Thank you. Ms. Sherby, our village clerk, any commentary this evening?
Happy New Year to everyone. See everyone back safe.
Great. Thank you. Okay, before we go into the president's information, there was a gentleman in the back. You're up. Step up to the microphone, please. Identify yourself for our clerk. And fire away.
No.
My name is, thank you, Joe.
My name is Barbara Harry Marukas, and I just want to say that I could provide some younger generation perspective on all of it because I'm younger, and my dad told me go in the public, and I saw so much. I have a paralegal certificate, and if you want to put kind of the younger stuff in the codes and stuff, my father is a real estate developer, and we've made many buildings, and many boards for many years successfully. And I could really help here and fill you in on the new stuff. And if you wanted to, and that's what's wrong, like an offer or something. So if you know, if you had time, it'd be an update. Sound like these ones were maybe younger, you know. So that's what I'm saying.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, there's probably a slip, if there's not one in that desk there, under where you're standing, there might be something, you could put your name, address, and phone number on it and give it to our clerk. Okay? There might be something right there for you. Thank you, sir. Okay. Board President report. A couple of things, informational things. Tomorrow morning at 7:30 at the Westchester Community Church is the Chamber Networking Breakfast. Oh, I'm sorry, Thursday, the January 16th at 7:30. If you haven't already, make sure you get a hold of Mary Backus or let Janet know if you'd like to attend. Janet and I attended a forum from WCMC today at the Hoffer House in beautiful downtown Rosemont regarding municipal aggregation and some of the changes that are probably going to be proffered for by Commonwealth Edison. As you know, this is something that's bidded out through the tariffs and the auctions for power and transmission lines and things of that nature. And I guess the information that I'd like to indicate is that the village manager and myself are attending these meetings and are getting information, and we'll be passing this along not only to the board but residents as we move forward with this process. If you haven't already, I know WCMC is looking for a count on their legislative breakfast on February 8th, 2014 at the Rosewood Banquet Hall in Rosemont. Please let Janet know ASAP if you're planning on attending. The Village of Hillside has invited all of us to an annual breakfast for Dr. Martin Luther King to be held at the Best West Chicago Hillside Hotel on Frontage Road in Hillside. $12 per person. Please contact the Village of Hillside if you're interested, because registrations are required. So they'd like to get those by tomorrow if you're so interested. I've also received information from the Proviso Municipal League that a dinner has been confirmed for Thursday, February 13th, with the guest speaker, Governor Quinn, also at the Best Western in Hillside. Mark your calendars. I will be getting some more information from Evelyn, Joe's administrative assistants, regarding the cost, the time, and things like that, and I'll get that out to you as soon as possible if you're interested in hearing what Governor Quinn has to say. Couple things. This week has been letter writing week for me, and Janet has been editing my writing, but we have a letter out to the Illinois Department of Natural Resources regarding the water line on Hickory Lane. I think it's time that we make some decisions regarding that water line, and I believe that that should be a village main, and so given to us. I've indicated what my thoughts were and trying to get a meeting with them, as there was a letter sent out after a prior meeting, and I think we need to do something regarding that and get that to be a village main one way or the other. I know Paul probably has the most history regarding this, but there was some thoughts years ago of going into some condemnation to getting that water main. Now there are probably, I don't think any privately owned homes, although private individuals are living there. They're either owned by Forest Preserve District or IDNR. And other than the Gallagher and Henry people who have the piece, the 15 acres on the end, that's probably the only private concern that owns anything there. So I know Janet in the past has done a spreadsheet of percentage of ownership, and these are all governmental bodies, and I don't think there should be a problem for us to take total maintenance responsibility of that water line to go forward. I've also written a letter to Governor Quinn regarding the IEPA not giving us any money as far as the flood of April the 18th. And hopefully we'll get an answer to that question either before the 13th, or I'll be standing with my hand up on February 13th in Hillside asking that question. So get ready. The third letter went to Mrs. Prettwinkle and the Cook County Forest Preserve people regarding the fountain area, that be considered surplus property and finally given to the village of Westchester, as we've been maintaining it for probably 35 plus years. And even Larry Suffredin, who isn't in our district, indicated at a meeting that Janet and I were at when we were getting permission for the fountain, that why are we playing with this? It's surplus property. It serves nobody any good other than the village of Westchester, and I want that property to be controlled by us. So that's in the midst. I've also had some basic communication with Commonwealth Edison, trying to get half of that little substation that's there to be green space. I know they've sent out some information regarding a $10,000 grant opportunity from ComEd for open spaces, and I know staff is working on that as well. Couple things, Janet mentioned it. I have reached out, or in the process of reaching out to St. Joe's and Proviso West High School to, I offered my services to go as a deputy registrar to register the voters for the November election in that. So I've talked to Mrs. Kelly from the 209 school board the other day, and I think we're going to be drafting a letter and saying what the kids need to be there, and then we'll be there at lunch hours maybe at some point in time to do registration if necessary. The county clerk, David Orr, has targeted February 3rd through 7th to do that throughout the high school areas in Cook County. But I think if we can get a little jump on it, it might be a little bit better that, that we're at least a little proactive in that regard. As a result of all this bad weather we had, everyone knows that the garbage service was pushed back pretty much every day for everyone. Generally speaking, when there is a holiday, say on a Monday, it's picked up on Tuesday, and then because they do not pick up in Westchester on Wednesday, that they would take the Wednesday, and Thursday, Friday would be unimpaired. As a result of the cold weather, we received word from Waste Management that they tried to get in the game on Tuesday but couldn't, which pushed the Thursday and Friday as well, so the whole week was off kilter. But pretty much everything got picked up, I think, except for the trees, which I'm sure they'll catch up on this way. I did get many a call about no mail at the post office from residents, emails and things of that nature. I did have conversation with the postmaster regarding that. There is a new postmaster. Her name is Yolanda Williams. She indicated she came from the Villa Park post office, or at least worked there at some point in time. I even heard she worked in the Berwyn one. She is aware of issues other than weather-related issues involving the Westchester post office, and I've even asked her if she wishes to put something in our newsletter about what her plans are to make the post office better, that I would certainly put it in our newsletter to advise the residents, because over the last year or so, when you don't have stamps at a post office, that's telling you something. And I'll just leave it at that. For Dave, I know there's been kudos regarding the snow removal and that. However, with the good comes the bad. I know on Thursday, angst regarding the melt and the slush, and it appeared that our plows weren't out. I know Celestine received a number of angry emails as well. I know we picked up Thursday as best as we could to try to allay some of those issues in a more timely manner. But again, with the good comes the bad. We did catch some heat regarding the amount of slush and things of that nature, and maybe the calcium chloride and the weather and the salt made it slushier than it would without the calcium chloride, which is, I guess, a good thing for traction and that, but again, we did get some interesting emails regarding that snow removal. One of the things I wanted to consider to this board is, you know, we have 2 honorary signs in town in the village of Westchester. Village President Cindy and Angelo Luciano have signs for a short blockage. I think John has pretty much all the Mayfair, but I'm asking the board to consider some type of honorary sign to a former village president and Mr. Fred Wettinger, a longtime resident of Westchester, was the village president when he resided on Westchester Boulevard for 8 years back in the 70s, and I know he's living on the west side of town on Wakefield, and he knows nothing about this request, but I'd like the board to consider making a street of his choice, whether it be the street that he's on or Westchester Boulevard where he resided and was president, with a little honorary sign like we've done for notable people. I think this is probably one of the right things to do. So I'd ask your concurrence on that. One last thing before we move on. In the past, I've asked this board to consider going to a calendar year budget versus a fiscal year budget. I'm of the thought, unless somebody tells me differently, that everything should start January 1, like I'm going to say the normal world does in our lives. And maybe this is a way that we can start on the budget, see where we're going, and again, we'll have to do the exercise again in October to get this budget done for a calendar year. I really haven't heard any negative to it, unless somebody can shed some light. Our financial wizards here, if it's not a good idea, I guess I need to hear why, and then we'll get rid of it. Oh, one last thing. I did receive a letter from MWRD, and this is in regards to process for municipalities to become authorized under the Watershed Management Ordinance that would allow local municipalities to become authorized to administer aspects of the water management ordinance that was passed on October 3rd, 2013. As you know, this goes into play, I believe, on May 1st, 14. However, I have to tell you, I expressed some dissatisfaction with MWRD that they gave such a wide window for projects. If it was me, I would have gave a shorter window, because with the flood history that Westchester has, for my 2 cents, I think anybody that's doing construction now should have to adhere to the new ordinance of May 1st, 2014, and not scoot underneath the radar, because we're in the lull period of now till May 1st. I think with the amount of water that we experience in our floods and our problems, that we should adhere to the strict requirement now instead of waiting until May 1st. That's just my opinion. But there is a process here that allows us to do some of the management of this. I think that this would cut down on some of the time of sending these things to MWRD for approval, that if we have trained people and then we have to have the engineer involved in this, there has to be a person here on staff that's handling a piece of this as well. And this is an ordinance that they've passed. Mike, have you seen any of these as yet?
No, I have not seen that particular document.
Okay, what we'll do is, I
If I
think,
could get a copy of it.
Melissa, did you copy this as well today? Did you copy this? If you
Thank
could
you.
send one to Mike to take a look at, and if you wouldn't mind giving us your opinion on this, But they're looking for an enforcement officer, professional engineer, which we have in Burke, and a wetland specialist to do this as well.
Have you asked Burke for their, Chris Burke's office for their input on that?
Not
A
as yet.
recommendation?
I just got this, the January
You want
8th.
to copy Mark on that also then, so we're all dealing off the same page?
Okay. Anything else? Oh, Dave should have spoke about this. The VFD rebate, it looks like Dave sent an email to Janet regarding the rebate. Dave, why don't you comment on it?
I had submitted for a rebate for the 3 VFDs we had installed at Crestwood. We were supposed to get back, I believe, 75% of the cost of the project, which was $37,200 and something dollars. We were eligible for a rebate of about $27,000. Apparently, that we've submitted in time to enjoy extra rebate at 85% of the project cost. To now we're going to be receiving nearly $30,000. I guess $29,424.
Okay.
So the project cost is going to be somewhere around $8,000 to the village.
For 3 VFDs.
For 3 VFDs.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, I'm done. Mike indicated that we have an executive session for collective bargaining under 5 Ilix 120/2C2, and also an executive session for appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body under 5 Ilix 122C-1, and we will take care of that after the committee of the whole. So there's a motion, a second, to adjourn our meeting, unless anybody else has anything else to say.
Motion.
Celeste.
Second.
Angelo. All those in favor of adjourning our board portion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition, say no. We stand adjourned.